Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. You know where you are. Thank you for tuning in. And I got to say thank you because just the other day I made a Facebook post about our new YouTube channel, the one that we're trying to grow, the one without all of the problematic checks and marks and, I feel like I've been put in detention sometimes. This new YouTube channel is growing. We're only putting one conversation a week on there, and that's on Wednesday night, as I've told you before. But it was a beautiful thing when you guys added like 3,000 new subscribers in a matter of like 8 hours. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the support, because I know it's effort to go and push the buttons and go over there and subscribe. It can be hectic and problematic, but you guys have been so good. 9 years we've been doing this show, and I talk too much. I said to a good friend of mine the other day, I said, I'm going to have to give an account before God for all the words that I've used and all the times I've put my foot in my mouth. That's why these days I'm trying to have better conversations with people who actually know what they're talking about, which is why I'm always recommending books to you and authors, people to follow, people that are either on X or Instagram, something that's worthwhile. They may be funny, but they still make a point, or they may be, punching through the smoke in some kind of way. But at the end of the day, you walk away edified and built up, and you've learned something from it. So I hope you get that from this show. We get silly sometimes. And that's fun. That's fun. That's what I do for a living. And if you want to find me out on the road, go to watchchad.com. It's where all the fun stuff is. It's got my live schedule. We just booked 2 shows, Shy, in Alaska in September. So all my Alaska peeps, y'all been asking. We're coming up there. We're going to do 2 nights, the 6th and 7th. We're definitely doing Fairbanks. Looking for the venue to confirm in Anchorage. But if they don't, we're doing 2 nights in Fairbanks. So get ready. Y'all turn the AC on because it's hot here in Texas. Are you guys frustrated a little bit when you look around and you see, I don't want to turn into the get off my lawn guy, but sometimes it's notoriously human nature that whenever we see the next generation, out in the streets or doing their thing at the mall or driving down the road or whatever, we want to kind of shake our fists at them. We're so frustrated, and we don't understand this TikTok phenomenon. We don't know what a reel is. We don't understand algorithms. We don't know how these kids are getting paid driving Ferraris by putting video games that they're playing and other people are watching on YouTube. It's weird. It's a weird world we're living in. I said a long time ago that, when I was doing cable television and went viral on social media, that my career skyrocketed. And only in the 21st century could you get more popular being on social media than being on actual television. So this is the world we're living in, and our kids are kind of glued to this technology, and unfortunately it's never going to go away, and it's never going to ease up. In fact, with the advent of things like AI, it's going to get more and more complex in trying to figure out how we tell what's false and what's real and what we should avoid and what we should be a part of. So, that being said, I'm going to call this a therapy session because I got my therapist here. Tessa Stuckey is here. I know we have a topic to talk about today,
yes.
But when you come in here and you're a licensed professional counselor, I'm like, let me pour out my heart. But we won't do that.
Yes, okay.
We won't do that.
Not today.
Not maybe later. We'll see where this goes.
I didn't mentally prepare for you to pour your heart
No,
out
I
to
know
me today.
you are.
So
You sit over there and say, how does that make you feel?
yeah,
How does that
tell
make
me
you
more
feel?
about that.
Tessa Stuckey, you're a counselor, but primarily for kids, right? No?
Actually, I started off working only with teenagers.
Okay.
So when you say kids in the mental health field, it sounds
That's
more
kid.
yeah, like little kids.
I got you.
So I started off working mostly with teenagers. Now I work a lot with parents. Raising the little kids as well as the teenagers.
So when you talk about the categories, and that makes sense because little kids are dealing with different things than
Sure.
teenagers are. There's different, stimuli out there that are
Yes.
coming at them and processing that. And now the parents are they just kind of like pulling their hair out saying, I don't know what to do with these kids? Do you think parents in this generation compared to maybe a former generation are less prepared to parent?
Absolutely, just because we are dealing with things that no generation before us had to deal with.
What do you think? What kind of things are we dealing with?
I always come back to screens and social media. So,
Screens and social media.
So early exposure to inappropriate content, whether that be pornography or something violent. Exposure to false information, and the kids don't know how to handle that. Screen addiction, so the amount of dopamine kids are getting just looking at the tablets or their mom's phone while waiting for the food to arrive at the restaurant is really unhealthy for their developmental brain. The dependency on that as far as lack of building resilience. So starting at, you go out to eat and you see families and the 1-year-old is holding mom's phone.
Yeah.
whatever, it becomes this instant gratification just to distract. And so these kids, starting really young, don't have to learn how to actually cope or self-soothe or get through boredom or anything hard because they've had this distraction, ongoing entertainment.
Is it sort of like a kid that you can't ever, you ever see these kids walking around the restaurant or whatever, and I mean, like, they're walking around talking and they take the pacifier out of their mouth to tell their mom what they want? It's like become a digital pacifier?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I've never put it that way,
See?
but I like that a lot,
See,
Chad.
I bring things to the table. But that's kind of the way, when you were saying that, that's kind of what, that self-soothing,
Yeah.
and, you know, there's a fixation that's there. What is dopamine?
Dopamine is a reward chemical that gets released in our brain naturally. And what we want is to get little drips of dopamine throughout the day. And you get that from making your bed, watching the sunrise, smelling fresh baked cookies, finishing a book, little things, organizing your closet. It feels really good.
Does it?
Oh my gosh, I think that's so good.
The end result feels good.
Yeah,
The end result feels good.
When
Doing
you
it
make your
is
bed and you clean your room and then you can look at your room, that feeling is dopamine. Like, I am an awesome, productive person, and I'm clean and I'm organized.
So you came in today, and of course everybody knows this studio is in my home, and I said, welcome to my mess, because I've been on the road a lot recently, and I've got a good friend of mine who has a cleaning company, and she'll bring her girls in every couple of weeks, because I live here by myself. I'm not too crazy, but they'll come in and they'll clean, and I look at what they did and get a dopamine
for sure.
hit. I'm like, oh my
For
gosh,
sure.
I want to
Feels
take
so
pictures.
good.
I want to send pictures of my house to my friends and pretend like I did this.
You would get more dopamine if you did it yourself.
Maybe, I don't
but
know.
yes, but also dopamine is found in unhealthy things like alcohol, cocaine, gambling, and video games, and social media.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you take gambling, for instance. You have a guy who loses, never wins.
And keeps going.
He just keeps going doing it. And I mean, they'll take the paycheck, will not feed his family.
Right.
That's why you have, casinos in these urban areas. Just there's so much poverty connected to that. The guy's just driven to do it. Yeah. And I can remember, I joke about this, that these days pornography is so easily accessible that I joke about saying, we waited for the JCPenney catalog to come in because they had
or
the
Victoria's
lingerie.
Secret or something.
Right. Or you went out in the woods where your brother hid some rain-soaked Playboy and you got the pages peeled together. And it was like part of it was just you were sneaking out there to get away with something.
Right, which is very exciting.
Yeah, or when we were kids, and I hate to go too far with this.
It's okay.
She's married, she's got 4 kids, just hang on. We're friends, okay? But like when the parents left and you were trying to get that channel, this is back before cable, right between there.
Yes.
Yeah, and kids were doing that. These days, it's like, bam, it's in your face. It's one of the reasons why I appreciated the efforts of our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who's a friend of mine, who, when he went after some of these porn things of saying, okay, you got to have age verifications. And a lot of people said, no, they're going to find ways around it and stuff like that. And I was like, any impeding roadblock,
blockage,
anything that stops you from chasing that dopamine hit, maybe it brings you down and you think a little more clearly.
So easy to get to. Absolutely.
But we were laughing because, and I'll throw CJ under the bus because we were talking about this, and I didn't tell you the story. CJ, and I told her I was going to do this, and we laugh about it. She goes, I'm pretty good about telling the kids, put the phones down. I was like, you're good at saying it. But they're also good at
picking it back
walking
up.
away and then picking it back up.
Yeah.
But I walked through the other day, and we were all out at the lake house, and the boys, I thought they were playing a video game on the big screen.
Okay.
They weren't.
Yeah.
They were watching videos of other people playing video games.
Right.
And I was like, I don't understand this world
I don't either.
that we're living in.
That part is very common, very popular for kids to watch others playing video games. When I think of growing up, every time I was waiting for my turn to play a video game, I was so bored and annoyed with my brother for not letting me play or whatever. So it is hard for me to understand, why do they love watching it so much? And the more I dove into it and trying to understand it and research, they're getting a lot of dopamine just watching those YouTube channels playing. Yeah. And they're getting information from it too, but it's more of that dopamine dump.
Yeah, so you wrote a book, and I don't want to get too deep in the book just yet because I want to get to know you more first. So this is a book that I want everybody to grab, especially you grandparents out there. I want you to read it because You've heard me, if you've ever heard me on stage, I make jokes about your children have failed your grandchildren because they've introduced them to Amazon.com and PlayStation 4 rather than maybe a belt and some corporal punishment. But the book is called For the Sake of Our Youth, a therapist's perspective on raising your family in today's culture. And I think you can go to TessaStuckeyBook.com.
No,
is that
just
right?
Tessa
Just
Stuckey.
Tessa Stuckey. Okay, because I looked it up last week. And but the book is right there, Tessa Stuckey, and we'll put all the information down on the line. I want you to get it, but I will get in the book in a minute. You're married, got 4 kids, 4 boys.
4 boys.
Hey guys, let's take a quick break in the show, and let's talk about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. You know, for 10 years, they have been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And when I say the only one, trust me, they are the only one. Another thing about them is they've been a partner of this show for a long time, and they're very good personal friends. I love these guys. I know their values, and they're just good people. And I'm happy that they partner with this show. I'm so proud of them. Patriot Mobile has offered dependable nationwide coverage for a long time, but they give you the ability to access all 3 major networks now, so you do not have to worry about ever getting out from under a coverage area. You've grown accustomed to having it, so you might as well keep it. But here's the deal. With Patriot Mobile, you don't have to fund the left or their causes, because with the big 3, if you pay your bill with them, guess what? They're going to fund things that you don't believe in. It's a fact. It's true. Check it out. Do your research. So when you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support with your hard-earned dollars. You support free speech, the Second Amendment, religious freedom, the sanctity of life. You're going to honor military veterans and our first responder heroes. They got a 100% U.S.-based customer service team that's going to make switching easy. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade. They'll help you. Switching is easy, and their team will even help you find the best plan that fits you and your family's needs. You can go to PatriotMobile.com. That's PatriotMobile.com. Don't forget to add /Chad on the end of it. Or you can call them on the phone, 972-PATRIOT. You get free activation with promo code CHAD. I spell it, Chad. Join me. Make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Chad. That's PatriotMobile.com/Chad, or call them, 972-PATRIOT. How's that over at the Stuckey house?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good right now. I will say, so I had 4 under 4. So back then,
wow,
which those years are very blurry for me. I can't really tap into those memories that well because it was just survival mode. But
wow,
it was a lot of messy. It's still loud and chaotic and messy and crazy, but fun.
But do you think of yourself? Do you think of yourself as when parents are looking at their kids, and do you say, do parents need to be a little more of a control freak or just involved, or what are they? What's the primary characteristic you're looking for in a parent that says, hey, listen, I got chaos. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's controlled, sometimes it's out of control. Mm-hmm. Like what should a parent strive to be in that situation?
I really love the word balance with so many things. So picking your battles, finding balance, and really understanding what you want your lifestyle norm and healthy upbringing for your kids to look like. So picking, 3 or 4 things that are really, really important to you as a parent. You want your kids to be, driven, or you want your kids to have integrity, or you want them to be kind-hearted. Like, what are those core values that you want to instill? And then you base all of your parenting decisions on those core values, but then focusing on balance, not freaking out over the fact that they won't eat their full dinner tonight, but that they're like, this is something that still happens in my house almost nightly. They may not sit on their butt and eat all the food that I made, but they're eating it pretty good. We're not throwing as many fits as we did years ago. And then someone puts on a song and all of a sudden all of us are dancing around the kitchen. To me, I'm okay with that because they've eaten a little bit. They're having fun. We're connecting. But I know for some people that wouldn't be okay for them because they really want their kids to learn good table manners. And so I can respect that as well, kind of that time and place situation. So really figuring out what's important for you. Every family is different, and what you want your kids to strive through those developmental years so that when they do leave the nest, they are independent and strong. And one of the biggest issues that I talk about in my book is screens and social media and them getting it too young, them depending on it too young, and then them losing chances to truly connect with each other and others out there and build true social skills is really important. And that's what we're seeing a big problem with today's generation.
The way our brains are designed is fascinating. It's very mysterious, but it's interesting how so much of it, like so many people, we're not that different, right? We all kind of react.
The same needs,
same reactions, the same responses to stimuli,
emotional desires.
Yeah. And so do you find is it kind of cut and dried when you're looking at a family or you're looking at kids or looking at parents and you go, okay, wow, you're really unique. Like I've never seen anything like you. Or is it like, yeah, this is just what people deal with? Hey guys, let's take a break in the show real quick. I want to tell you about my friends over at United Patriot Supply. You know, I'm a gun guy. I love my firearms. I love stockpiling my ammunition. I've got all the stuff out there, but sometimes you run into some things that are a little bit hard to find. That's when I turn to my good buddies over at UnitedPatriotSupply.com. They're not only my friends, they're partners with this show, and I'm proud to know them because they deliver. And let me tell you, when I say they deliver, if there's stuff out there you're looking for and you're having a hard time finding it, I guarantee you there's a very good chance they're going to have what you're looking for. So go out there and check them out, UnitedPatriotSupply.com. Right now, they got a deal going. When you buy a firearm, you can get up to 5 ounces of free silver with every order. So they got a silver incentive program because United Patriot Supply, they're also United Patriot Coin, and you've heard us talk about them as well. So you buy a firearm, you get silver with it. You get a free ounce of silver for every $500 you spend on guns. That's up to 5 free ounces. So you buy a $2,500 gun, guess what? You're going to get 5 pieces of silver. That's a pretty cool deal. So check it out. It's a combined promotion between United Patriot Supply and United Patriot Coin. And just get over there and get to know those guys. I tell you, you're going to love them, and they're going to be a regular stop and for you. So head over to UnitedPatriotSupply.com.
I have had cases come in where I say, this one is a little bit harder, a little bit more of a challenge, but no.
Yeah, people are people.
Yeah, I end up, it's all the same.
Yeah, I've been around the world.
Not the same, but the same. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, my joke, traveling all over the world, I'd go in third world countries, and I used to say, redneck is everywhere. Because people are just people. I mean, it's just, Nigeria has their version of duct taping things. You know what I'm saying? They just did.
Yes.
People are just people. No matter where you go, people are people.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to the screen thing in a minute because I know we're going to hammer that and really get on it a little bit because I'm guilty. I have the screen because I'm constantly on the phone with the work.
But I think that's different. And a lot of parents come to me and say, but aren't I a hypocrite? Because they get home from school and I'm getting stuff done on my phone and I tell them to get off their phone. Yeah. You're not being a hypocrite because you are using it to be productive. Yeah. They've been productive.
See, kids don't see it that way, though.
No, you have to make that very clear to them. Yeah. So I talk to a lot of parents about you have to learn to narrate why you are picking up your phone to check the weather, check your email, put something in the calendar. I know for me, if I don't put it in my calendar right then and there, you better believe I'm about to double book because I will forget. And so I have to do that around my kids all the time. But I simply narrate. They know I'm using it to be productive. They know I'm using it for work rather than they think I'm sitting on the couch scrolling or playing Candy Crush or something. Yeah. There's a huge difference. So we want to raise our kids with us modeling healthy tech behavior by using it for productivity. Also some boundaries, like because we live in a world where we are online 24/7, we have to practice like, okay, it's Sunday. I'm not going to try and get any work done. It's the hardest thing. I'm going to try and avoid looking at my email today, or whatever it is. But setting those boundaries is really important. I know for me, my boys are 13, 11, and I have twin 9-year-olds. And I really try, it has happened many times and will continue to happen, but I really try not to pick up my phone in the morning when they're getting ready for school. I'm trying to be present with them. Yeah. Once they get on the bus and go to school, I am on my phone. I might be scrolling social media. I might be checking on a reel that I just posted or whatever. But I'm trying to set that boundary so that I'm not on it all the time around them. Right. So everyone's different in that way.
Yeah, because when you said that, I thought, kids see us on the phone. Yeah. Visually, they've got that etched in their brain, but they're not, head down looking, they think you're scrolling. It's like you want to negotiate this contract, you can. Right. If you want to answer these emails, hey, I want my phone, you're on your phone. Because I've heard kids say that.
Oh, all the time. All the time. And I think also the time and place thing is important. Narrating your use so that you're modeling good, healthy behavior, but also letting them know that mom and dad have other things that we have to get done that are time sensitive, and they don't necessarily have that. They just don't. They have schoolwork that they need to get done, absolutely, but it's not, we're trying to teach them time management too. Like, you should have had this done by 10 p.m. when we shut down the internet for the day. You know what I mean? So it's just a different situation between parent and child, and the child has to learn that. And I do believe in mutual respect. I think parents can explain that to them. But at the end of the day, we are still the parents and they are the child, and we can set those boundaries.
How much are you seeing? You said something right there. It's a mouthful to me. I've seen people who are trying to be their kid's friend. Is that a problem? In today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses, and high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take you years to become debt-free, if ever. And what I want you to do is reach out to American Financing. They're a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. So if you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers are saving about $854 a month, which is the equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. You could all use that along with me. Now, the process is straightforward and it's quick. You could close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. So it costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore, so call them. 888-675-4090. That's 888-675-4090, or visit AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
That has always been a problem for many generations.
Yeah, I don't think it's a new thing at all, right?
That's not bigger, I don't feel, than any generation before. But what I say is that as a parent, we can have qualities in our relationship with our child that have friendship qualities. Okay, so like I can go out to lunch with my son and spend time with him and take interest in him the same I would with a friend. If you and I met for coffee, I would not sit there and be like, Chad, did you empty the dishwasher this morning? Did you make sure that you finished all of your emails before you met up with me today? You'd be like, Tessa, I'd never want to meet for coffee with you
This
ever.
coffee
like,
sucks.
Get off of my butt. So when you spend quality time with your kids, you want to take away the nagging, the parenting role, and kind of come in with the friendship role, but not the friendship dynamic. There's a difference. You can have the qualities of a friendship within the parenting dynamic, but keep that dynamic parent-child, but with some friendship qualities. So taking interest, spending time together, that sort of thing, not nagging all the time. Clock it for later. I need to maybe take a quick note, like I need to ask him about his science project, you know, when we get home. But
do you think people should schedule those times where it says, okay, listen, we're going to take 10 minutes here.
Yeah.
Let's do a checklist of what's going on with our responsibilities.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? I mean, it's like, because the reason I ask that is because growing up, my kids turned out pretty good. They turned out pretty good, and I mean, they've still had their times, and they still do. Just get them all together in a room, and they'll bicker and they'll fight, but they get along. They protect each other. I love their dynamic. But they're grown and doing their thing, and my philosophy, and I've always said this, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I want you to kind of critique this. I've always said, listen, I've never, because people say, you know, how did your kids turn out so good? I said, well, we disciplined them, but we gave them a value system. So it wasn't so much this is right, this is wrong, because what's right for me may not always in every case be right for you.
Sure.
But if you value a certain thing, you will make the right decision based on your values.
Yeah, or you might have a mistake and fall, but that value system is going to help pick you back up and learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
I thought you were asking if people should schedule quality time.
I am, and the reason I'm asking that is because I don't want to sit there and be this domineering, you know, over my kids and go, hey, does that match your values? Does this do, you know, hey, you need to get this work done. We value a work ethic and getting our stuff done on time and things like that. So what I'm saying is, rather than being that person who's, again, having a really crappy cup of coffee with a friend, is you go, okay, let's take 10 minutes and let's deal with basically let's do a value check.
We cannot shy away from trying to parent our kids.
It's still parenting.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to, like, avoid it altogether. So if the family needs to schedule that, or a weekly check-in, or what do you guys have? I call it our family business meeting, where it's like, what do we have going on this week? What's going to work? What's not going to work? How are you doing? And what do you need to get through this week so that it's not the end of the world? And then checking in on those values and stuff. So, where can we help? But where can we help you take care of yourself, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a very big fan of scheduling stuff. Absolutely.
So for some of our audience here that might be a little bit older, or they don't have kids, or their kids are grown, or their grandparents or whatever, let me bring them back into this conversation a little bit. Do you feel like what we're seeing generationally, and again, we've always shaken our fist at the next generation, said these pesky kids. But with the challenges that are there and all the stuff that are bombarding these kids for attention, do you feel like the older generation, parents, grandparents, have a little bit of a legitimate gripe these days to go, this society we've created that's taking over our kids' brains really kind of sucks?
Yeah, but I would like for them to look in the mirror a little bit, because you just said it. They created it, right? So I think...
Oh, that's a shot to you boomers right there. That's a shot. I heard it. Tessa Stuckey.
But it's
I don't disagree with you, by the way.
It's so easy for us to look at the next generation and be like, oh, the kids these days. And there's so much truth to that. Yeah. But a lot of it is like, well, we were the ones that created those norms, that lifestyle, those expectations. So
were we absentee?
Okay, well, which generation are we
talking about? Well, let's talk about boomers.
Okay, my parents are boomers.
So I'm Gen X.
And I'm great.
And you're millennial, right?
I am,
And so my parents were boomers. Well, my mother still is.
Yeah, my parents are still
Parents
kicking.
are actual boomers. That phrase gets tossed around.
It does. But
which
my
doesn't
parents
mean what
are
it means.
legitimate boomers.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah, so you were kind of a late in life baby.
So my dad had a son younger, and my brother is 50, and then he got married to my mom a little bit later and had us.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
I'm glad you're here.
Dad is 77.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. That's an interesting thing. That's an interesting dynamic that you don't see a lot of, is a millennial that's parents are actual boomers.
Right.
Me being Gen X, I'm not happy with my generation. In some ways I am, and in other ways I'm not, because we were the latchkey kids. We were the ones whose parents they started working 2 jobs.
Right.
And then when we graduated college, we expected to make exactly what our parents made coming right out of college.
Yeah.
We didn't understand the length of time and effort that it went to get into that.
Wait, you were expecting it, or your parents were expecting it?
No, I think my generation. I think my generation was expecting it.
Okay.
I think one of the things that was a little bit tragic to Gen X is looking back on it now, and you Gen Xers, you disagree with me up front, but back then you thought when you got out of school you were supposed to be making what Dad made.
I think every generation does, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't go further back than boomers, so I don't know.
I could be wrong too, but I definitely work ethic and expectations have changed through the generations, and I think like even now, like Gen Z, like they think they're going to make $200,000 coming out of college and not have to.
Well,
they
can just be social media influencers and be content creators.
But that's harder than they think too.
Oh boy, tell me.
And so so they end up. I don't want to use the word failing, but realizing pretty quickly, like, oh, I have to work to make this. Like the TikTokers make it look so easy. And so they come out of college thinking, oh, I'm going to get this job and I'm expecting $200,000 right out the gate. Or I'm going to be an influencer and make tons of money. Yeah. And they are rudely awakened. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I always say, sort of a former social media influencer, I still use it, but the game changed so much. Everywhere I go to do a live show, people say, we missed what you used to do. And I'm like, well, I did it for 5 years and it about killed me. Because you don't understand the work that goes into sitting in a truck with a dog in the back seat and talking for 2 minutes. And the way that I did it, and he was like, there's a lot of brain power. It got exhausting.
I feel you. When I wrote my book, the publishers were like, you got to get a social media presence. And I was like, I'm sorry. My whole thing is like not spending so much time on social media. And they're like, and what really sells is selfies. And I'm like, there's a whole section in my book against selfies. So what do you mean? So it has been an exhausting journey for me to be on social media as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
I've had, for years, and I cut it out for the most part. I still have to do it every now and then. People used to give me a hard time. They were like, oh my God, it's a selfie king. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
It's uncomfortable.
What we were doing because we were in that industry.
It on mine. I know.
It's rough.
But
It's
going
rough.
back to what you were saying about the generation.
I mean, this is hard first world persecution right here. We had to take a picture of ourselves, people.
No.
But there's a deeper underlying psychological thing that is really kind of problematic with our society. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I honestly forgot.
Okay. So, well, let me bring you back on that thing because with the boomers, like I said, I was sort of a latchkey kid.
Yes.
And my mother was present, but she also had her thing going on. But there was a lot of time you come home alone, or you're at the neighbor's house, or something like that. And then my generation came along, and we didn't want our kids to be without us.
Right.
And so we kind of coddled them a little bit.
You did the reverse, right?
We did the reverse. And now this generation is getting older, and they're starting to have kids, and they never want their kid to hear the word no.
Right.
So
the fear of no.
It's the Amazon.com culture. I mean, if they're instead of baby showers, I had a buddy of mine, when they had their first child, he goes, I hate Amazon.com. I said, why? And he goes, because there's 30 boxes on the front porch every single...
All the time.
You got somebody to rock, you got a machine that rocks the kids.
Literally.
You got monitors that watch them sleep. I mean, there's all these things.
It's too much of the coddling, right?
Yeah.
But also, my biggest thing is parents who just cannot handle their kid being bored. I grew up in summer days, like my mom was downstairs in the kitchen a lot and cleaning or whatever, typical mom roles, like traditional. And then she started working when we got a little bit older. But summer days was on us to figure out what we were doing that day.
Right.
I didn't wake up. I mean, maybe I did and I just don't remember. But I don't remember every single day being like, Mom, what are we doing today? Can you please come and hang out with me? And
And I hear it.
And it's constant.
Yeah.
And so then there's these moms who feel so guilty because their kid is so bored, and so they hand them the tablet because that will give hours and hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
And then there's like the whole day goes by and the mom's like, oh, I barely even saw my kid and he's 6.
Yeah. I was doing an interview. I was doing a little special for a TV thing at a youth rodeo. And these kids came from all over and they competed, and it was amazing to watch these kids do what they did at such a young age. And I interviewed this one little kid. And he might have been 7, and he was an impressive little dude, a little country boy, little cowboy hat on, the whole thing. And he said, we drove here from Florida, our ranch in Florida. And I said, how many hours did it take? And he told me it was like a 16-hour drive or something. And he goes, I said, well, what did you do on that drive? He goes, I looked out the window. And I was like, what, who are you? Like, what do you mean?
Where are you from?
He's like, I just looked out the window. And I said, you didn't play on a tablet or nothing? He said, no, I don't have that.
My son the other day I'm driving, and he goes, Mom, my raindrop won. And I go, what are you talking about? He's like, they were racing on the window, and mine won. And I was just like, oh, yes. Like, I am predicting that with Gen Z, but more Gen Alpha. Is it Alpha Gen or Gen Alpha?
God, I don't know. I heard that term recently, and I was like, okay, I'm going to confuse
Those
that.
are my kids.
Yeah.
So my son was born in 2011, and I believe that's the beginning of Gen Alpha. Anyway.
I'll take your word for that because I don't know.
I think that
I heard
we're
it, but I was
going
like,
to
okay, here we
see
go.
a huge separation between the kids who grew up with tablets in their faces and the kids who didn't. When they graduate college or they're out in the workforce, we're going to be able to tell. I mean, you can already tell. I don't know if you're around kids that often, but you can, and there's a whole term.
Enough to piss me off.
You know the term iPad kid. That's a term that people are using. Yeah. And it is very clear their social development is very behind. We're seeing mental illnesses just skyrocket for these kids, starting really, really young. Scary, scary stuff, dark thoughts, dark behavior, starting really, really young. And then we've got kids who are not being raised on tablets and screens, and they might have problems in their adolescent years, but appropriate timing. The right social development, the right on cue cognitive development happening with them. And so there's a huge difference. And I think we're going to see a huge separation when they get older. I really do.
So what you're telling me is
now.
There's consequences.
Big. I mean, literally, and at the risk of sounding dramatic, life or death consequences, which is what drove me into this.
So, I would love for our editors at this point to throw some clips of this up don't, guys, when you're editing this, don't, because we'll get banned on social media because I made a clip about this the other day.
What?
They got, Have you seen the videos of these street shutdowns where they take all their cars and they're burning them in circles out there in the middle of the crosswalk thing, and people are getting hit by the cars, and people are hanging out of the cars and they're filming? Have you seen these things? It's a takeover. What's it called, Shai? Takeover. And so they go into the streets. I mean, this one kid lost his leg in front of the Whole Foods.
Where?
All over. They're doing it in inner cities. They're doing it everywhere. They're doing it in Houston. They're doing it, I mean, all over. And there's it's become a viral trend for these. I don't know if they're stealing the cars or what they're doing, because they sure are treating them like something they didn't pay for. But they're just burning out. They're spinning. You know what, editors, throw a couple in there, just not the violent ones. I'll send you some clips.
And they're just
they'll show you some deals. I don't even know where my phone is. I put it somewhere.
Threw it.
I put it somewhere.
Who needs a
So
phone?
to be fair, Tessa, knowing Tessa was coming, I did this on purpose. Of course, I did it on purpose. No, I was dealing with something with an email and a contract when you came in here, and I was joking. I said, ever since you've been here, I've been on my screen, and that's when you reprimanded me heavily, and you were like, you know what, this guy has a problem.
It's just so horrible to you.
So you were so bad, but it's this kind of stuff right here, Tessa. And I'm going to show you the thing, and they can throw the clips up there, but it's this kind of stuff. Have you seen these things where this guy fell off a sign?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he fell, and now he's just kind of army crawl it off, you know, like, and they're like, okay, but these people are just out here spinning their deals, and it's like, you know, boom, they hit people. You see that?
Oh my gosh.
So when you say
it's
life
not surprising, but then I'm having this reaction.
I know. So you got, look at this kid. I mean, just boom. Oh. And they're hitting people. He knocked his pants off. So, I mean, literally, his pants left the chat. So here we go with this stuff. But this is a viral trend. So when you talk about life and death consequences, when you see something on a screen and you're like, I can do that.
So we find relatability with all the things that we consume. So if you're a 14-year-old boy whose prefrontal cortex is lacking development, because that's normal, and so that's that impulse control and that
develops
risk
to
assessment.
what, about the age of what, 25? 28.
For boys, it's 28.
See, I keep saying 25. It's 28.
25
you boys
is
ain't
girls.
ready. You boys aren't ready, okay?
So they're lacking risk assessment and impulse control.
Yeah.
So that's already working against them. Then they are finding relatability with the things that they consume, no matter what it is. The chances of them trying to recreate or long to watch more of that is very, very high. And so when I talk about life or death, I am talking about two separate ones. One being those dangerous viral trends. Mm-hmm. I think of the show Jackass back in the day on MTV.
Johnny Knoxville.
And that only came out, once a week, and we would watch it, and then some kids would try and recreate some of the stuff, but it wasn't on 24/7. It was not being fed to them all the time. Yeah. So I think of viral trends like that, very similar to that show, that it's going to encourage the stupid behavior, not thinking things through, but also they get these huge dopamine hits when something goes viral, and they get more likes and more comments and all of that. So it feels even more good for them. So that's danger number one. The other one is suicide and self-harm, which is what first piqued my interest with all of this. All of my kids were 4 and under when I started working as a therapist, and I was seeing all these teenagers coming from seemingly healthy families, interactive parents, doing pretty good in school, involved in sports, really great kids, but they had these dark thoughts. Anytime they went through something hard or struggled, a bad hair day, I kid you not, a bad hair day, my friend looked at me weird, my mom got mad because I forgot to empty the dishwasher, suicidal thinking. And it was everywhere. And this was about 6 years ago. No, wait. What year is it? This was about
I have to think on that,
This
Tess.
was about 8 or 9 years ago. 2015, 2016 was when I started.
Okay.
And our community was dealing with a suicide cluster. I don't know if you knew that, but
I wasn't here at that point in time. And this is, by the way, where we live. I call this my uppity eco bubble. Like, this is a very affluent area. We live in a township.
Yes.
So this is
where everything is very perfect. And
right? let me tell you something. When CJ made that clip the other day, I don't know if you saw it or not. She made the social media about somebody had put the $100 bill on her window.
Yes.
And
I did see that.
The city got upset about this.
I believe
the police department called CJ last week.
Oh, really?
They were like really concerned about this deal because they don't want any negative thing being said about the Woodlands.
And CJ knows this. We both grew up here, and there were times when like a kid would get shot and no one ever heard about it other than word of mouth.
Yeah.
because there was no record of
My
it.
truck got broken into 2 weeks ago in 4 p.m. in the afternoon in front of the PGA Superstore in the Woodlands.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh,
this
my
stuff
mom's did
happens.
too.
And so I'm
there.
I'm talking about these things. I'm like, this ain't the Woodlands you think it is anymore. But nobody wants to talk about that.
But it always was like that.
Right.
Not that the Woodlands is a great place. It's
a great place.
But everywhere there's going to be crime.
Yeah.
Everywhere there's going to be
But they just don't
tragedy.
want, they'd rather kind of keep it on the down
So
low.
about 2016-ish, we lost 8 female high school students
God.
within a year and a half to suicide, ranging from 14 to 17 years old. And I'm seeing all their friends. I'm seeing people who kind of knew them, you know, and they were saying things to me like, I wish I had a parking spot dedicated to me.
Come on.
I want to know how many people are going to come to my funeral. Or if she can do it, maybe she's happy now, I'm going to try it too. So all of this stuff. And at the time, okay, so that was 2015, 2016. I had graduated high school in 2004. So I had like just been to my 10-year reunion. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm only like 28, 29. And you guys are talking in ways that I feel so disconnected from. I thought that I was going to be some cool young therapist, that these teenagers were just totally going to click with me. But they were almost speaking a language I was like, what is going on culturally? There has to be something. And so then that show on Netflix came out, 13 Reasons Why. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah.
And so that scared me. And then I just refused to raise my kids in a world where this was so normalized and glorified and common. And so I went down this big research journey. And
So would you call it brainwashing?
I call it influenced confusion. We can definitely use the word brainwashing, but when I've used it in the past, I get a lot of backlash. But
Okay.
there's that they're called influencers, right?
Yeah.
So there's that influence, and they're so impressionable at young ages. And if they're getting exposed to it at 8, 9, 10 years old, absolutely. Absolutely.
So people, my virality, for lack of better words, on social media for a few years, it popped off. For some reason, people wanted to hear my thoughts, and everybody watched it. It wasn't silly, it wasn't stupid, it wasn't edited. It was just me in a truck, dog in the back seat, and here was my thoughts of the day, and I tried to rub observational humor into making a point, okay? And it went crazy. Literally 3 billion views on Facebook alone. I mean, insane the stuff that was going on. So this was before the phrase influencer came along. People would introduce me as an internet sensation.
Okay.
Which to me, I always said was like a 21st century way of saying I was unemployed but popular.
Right.
So I
what
made
that is.
jokes about this stuff, and yeah. So now we have this thing called influencers.
Which they're trying to get rid of that word.
I wish they would.
Well, they are. They're trying to call it content creators.
Content creators.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that trend. Content creators. Everything you see now, if you're buying a new camera or a microphone or something, so you content creators, y'all, I see that in the advertisings now.
So I don't like the word influencer either. I don't think anyone really loves it because it has such a bad rap. But when I think about it, when I'm online, I don't want to be a content creator. I do want to influence people.
You do want to influence people.
In the mental health field. I'm a credible source for people when it comes to mental health and when it comes to parenting in today's world with tech, that I do want to be an influencer in those ways, but not in the, buy this at Target.
Yeah, not a Kim Kardashian.
Or any of the other
You're striving to butt implants
influencers that are out there who are like, I just got a Target haul and let me show you everything I got. I want to influence people in a certain way, sure. But I mean that in a healthy way, not in a brainwashing way.
Well, I mean, and whether it's a mentor or a coach or a pastor or
a motivational speaker.
Motivational speaker, when we throw parents in there as well, if they're doing their job, is you want to influence positively. I've always said, even with my humor, I still want at the end of the day to make a point with it.
Yes.
Even if it's something like stupidly I put out, and the thing, I don't know, it's like at 1 million views at this point. I made a parody country song of the Hawk Tuah girl, which is disgusting, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because I want to point out how stupid it is that we're making a thing out of this.
Right.
Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you're glorifying that. I'm like, maybe I am because I'm giving attention to it. But at the same time, I find humor in culture and what's going on. I try to make fun of it. And so my thing is like, listen, it's okay to laugh at these things because we do have a generation out there that is truly being influenced by the takeovers and the, let's pull prank. I mean, you see people who are these influencers that one was, I saw a video a while back where this guy was harassing an Uber driver, and the guy just pulled out a gun and shot him. It's like because these quote influencers are trying to do the next thing
to get the attention. Right?
There was a guy who's a bodybuilder, and another, he's an influencer, and then another kid who's an influencer walks over and snatched his hat off, and the guy just slapped the shit out of him. And I was like,
But that's another issue. Like, think about the world we live in it's very egocentric. The fact that we all have our own platform, whether we are trying to be content creators or not, it's pictures of us, our whole life right there. If we were to go back to 2000 and I said, Chad, I want you to go to this website, tessastuckey.com, and it had all these pictures of just me, selfies and pictures of me with my friends, you would be like, get over yourself.
Right.
What is wrong with you?
Right.
And today's world, that is completely normal and okay and glorified and gets more views and more attention. So we're living in a world where everyone is kind of egocentric. And so it's harder to get attention. So you're going to see these outlandish, ridiculous efforts to feel important in this world.
Yeah, I call it punching through the smoke. These kids are trying to punch through the smoke. How can I be so radical, and what can I do to get attention?
Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing because, again, it's evolved. And so what we used to kind of ridicule and say, okay, this kid, people were even coming to me and like, I'm sick of seeing this guy on my social media feed. And now it's accepted. Now they're like, we miss you doing that.
There's nothing wrong with being a sensitive person. But when it comes to what you're doing and saying online, that's different. So if someone's feeling sensitive from something that you said online, they can just unfollow you.
Block, go away.
Right? Or not look at your stuff anymore and choose not to do that. However, in today's world, you want to talk about brainwashing, kids are being influenced to speak up only online. Right. In person, they're too uncomfortable because they're socially not strong enough to say something to your face. But online, they are very confident behind a screen, and they will say those things. But they're also being encouraged by people who are not credible sources, saying, if your parents said this to you, then you were being abused. Yeah. And they believe that. And so they come back and say, I was abused as a kid, when it was, no. Right. So there's all these misconceptions and misunderstandings happening. And then there's a lot of people very confident behind a screen saying things. And it's creating this you want to talk about a mess.
It's a mess. We've created manufactured oppression. We've created victimhood.
Yep.
Again, talk about Gen X. If I had something to say to you, we used to come knock on your door, and when you stepped out, we had a talk. And I mean, sometimes we smacked each other.
I would write a letter and give it to my friend at school.
Strongly word, slide it in the locker.
Yeah.
So I've got a friend of mine, Spencer James, who's got a funny bit about online bullying, and he goes, you know what? You want to fix it? Go, dook. Just push the button, turn it off. But it's, and then I have people who, I've said that, and people push back and say, oh, it's way more complex than this. It's way more complex. Well, it is when you've created a generation of wusses.
Well, and I think that feelings are valid, fine, but you don't have to put yourself in that situation where you know for sure that looking at that person's stuff or whatever is going to bother you or hurt you. Or maybe, again, when we give our kids access to online, when they're not old enough, they're not mature enough, they're not emotionally independent and strong, they will have those reactions. That part is very developmentally on cue, but they don't know how to handle it or what to do with it.
Yeah, and then you have people who get off on the trolling, right? Let's call it that, because it's a Machiavellian, it's a narcissistic, that's a dopamine hit.
Absolutely, a huge.
And if they can get a response,
it's a dump.
Yeah, if they can get a responce, oh my gosh,
they're ready,
and they keep coming back.
Yes.
That's why every now and then I'm so masochistic. I like to give them the response just so they'll keep coming. Oh, everybody that follows me knows I'm a pot stirrer.
It is hard not to do that too, because people will come at me too, and I want to go off. But at the end of the day, and we're different people, so it's fine that you do that. But at the end of the day, for me, I just don't want to put my energy into
You're more mature than I am. The bottom line, trust me, Tessa, I said it. It's true.
I don't want to respond to these people. Like, they obviously are not my people if they feel this way, and I'm just not going to give my energy. But hurt people, and there are a lot of hurt people behind a screen. So those trolls, they are hurting in some way, and it makes me just feel sad for them.
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of pathetic, like man, they must live a really sad life if that is what gives them that dopamine.
I've had people come to me and say, I really want to respond to this person. I said, just imagine that they're sitting there naked on dial-up internet in their mom's basement on a folding chair, eating, yesterday's salami sandwich.
Sorry for them.
Just let it go. Just let it go. They don't have a life, and don't do it. And I said, you could stir the pot, but I really do have empathy for some of these people because I'm like, wow. I mean, like, if this is really where you're finding your life's validation is on the internet.
Sad?
But let's bring it back to these kids because I want to. Like when I was growing up, there was a thing, and I guess it's still a thing. You could tell me, like, people like cutting and things like that, and just those types of things. Like, is that still going on? I mean, so these
very much.
Like you talked about the suicide, the kind of the clumps of that going on, but the self-harm.
Yes.
That's and I've heard people describe the cutting as just kind of letting something out or something. I don't know, like a self-flagellation.
Usually, it's either they're punishing themselves,
creating the pain on the outside that they're feeling on the inside.
Release, They get punishment, right? Like I got a 95 on my chemistry exam, not a 100, so I deserve to be punished because I should have studied more. That sort of thing.
That's a deep. I mean, all of that. I mean, even the suicide ideations and stuff like that. I mean, these are deep psychological things. And again, my whole goal as a parent is in the mother of my children, who we get along great. Now. But that was one thing we did well, is we raised good kids and we communicated reasonably well as they got older. But I said, I want to keep them innocent as long as I can keep them innocent.
Yes.
And they're not innocent anymore. The children just aren't. They're exposed to everything.
Everything. So, but I will say this, when it comes to self-harm and suicidal thinking, when our kids are young, especially those tween years, so 9, 10, 11, 12, they are so sensitive and impressionable, and they are building their coping skills that they will have the rest of their life, or the things that they know make them feel good. So if they go down an unhealthy path because of something they saw online or something that a friend of theirs told them about that they saw online, and they start practicing those unhealthy coping skills like cutting, it's going to be with them for a long time. And then you have to get them into therapy. And then I have to do my job that is very, very hard to reverse that. It is like in them. So without anything else, keep your kids offline so that they don't start learning unhealthy coping skills, so that they're not exposed to something, also so that they can learn when they are on their screens too much. They don't have the time or opportunity to learn how much they love to write in their journal, or how much they love to draw, or when they are sad because dad just got mad at them about something, that, listening to music in the room calms them down. No, if they go straight to playing a game or scrolling online, they're never going to learn those coping skills, and they might be exposed to something really unhealthy.
Like my kids, and God bless them, they don't walk on water. I mean, not deep water, but whatever. They walk on little. I love my kids, and I'm so proud of them. But they made their they had a work ethic. Like they had jobs before they had driver's license.
Yeah.
Kids these days aren't even getting driver's license. A lot of them until they're 18 or older.
Crazy.
And they don't have to, because they got the world right here on the screen.
Right. Like I couldn't wait for Friday night so I could get in my car and see who was where and drive around. And they don't have to do that to see anyone. But also they all claim to have social or anxiety in general. Yeah. And so they don't want to get behind a wheel.
They're scared.
It's very different. The desires and longings are different in that way. And it's hard for us to understand that. And even when they are 18, it's very hard to get them.
Oh, there's so many things there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
I know. I mean, and you want to talk about the victim thing. A lot of them use that. I call it victim fishing. What did you call it? Victim
manufactured depression.
No, you said something about victim.
Well, yeah,
it's
create a victim.
But that I can't get my driver's license because my anxiety is so bad. It's like, is it? Or are you wanting it to be for some sort of attention? And again, attention is the longing to feel important and valued. And it has this bad rap of, oh, she just wants to do that for attention. Yes, that's true. But what's happening deeper? She doesn't feel important. She doesn't feel valued. So she's going to that extent to get attention. Yeah. There's something going on that's not healthy. So the people who are closest to me, who really, really know me, who have been with me for a number of years, know that one of my mottos in life is the issue is never the issue. So whenever somebody comes to me, they've got a problem or there's something going on, I try to say, okay, look, the issue is not the issue. The issue you're bringing to me, the one you're saying,
That's not the one.
Right.
Let's dig a little deeper and find
Yes.
out what's really going on, because I'm a
Yes.
bottom line kind of person. I was a horrible pastor. I tried that for a number of years.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I was a horrible pastor because most people don't want their problems fixed. They want them understood.
Yes.
Because if the problems were taken away, they'd lose their identity.
Right.
So my thing is, let's get to the issue when people don't want to get to the issue, because that's exposing. How hard is it to get to the real issue when it comes to a kid or even their parents? Because a lot of times I would think that a lot of parents are very protective and they don't want to admit
For sure.
that we screwed up or we let
Absolutely.
something go or we were absentee.
I would say I'm kind of going a different direction with this,
Okay.
is that I think people don't want to they don't want you to help them find the issue because they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want you to fix their problems because that makes them feel incapable, stupid, weak,
They couldn't do it
whatever.
themselves.
Right. So I think, and this is what I work with a lot of parents with their kids, it's like it's not our job to fix our kids'
Yeah.
problems. It's our job to support them while they figure out how to fix it. So I'm wondering, that's just where my brain went when you were bringing this up. But definitely,
I think it's a very valid point. I think that's
parents-
great.
Well, and I don't know, it's funny talking to you because you're a man, but usually I talk to a lot of women, and all I have to
Right.
say is, when you've had a hard day and you go to your husband and you vent to him, and then he comes back and he says, you know what you should do?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
in my core, every time my husband says that to me, I'm like, excuse me?
I feel the hate rising.
You don't think I thought about that already?
Yeah.
You don't think I tried that already? You think I'm stupid. You think I can't do this without your wisdom,
Yeah.
right? And I get very defensive. It's not my favorite quality about me.
Yeah.
But even if he has the answer, even if he has the actual very
Yeah.
good, obvious black and white answer, I still will get defensive. And that's how our kids are with us. So the parent-child dynamic is very much the same as the man-wife, with him saying, I've got the solution. And she goes, no, but I'm not stupid. Like, what? So that's how it is with parent-child. So it's our job to not so much say, you know what I would do, or do you know what I did when I was your age? Because that is going to turn them off real quick. You want to say, well, what are you going to do about that? And how can I help?
See, that's profound. That's wisdom. Yeah.
Yes, I try to be profound.
That's profound. Because we do that. You know what I did, but back in my day.
Absolutely. Well, and that's our way of trying to relate with them. Our intention is good.
Yeah.
It is not to try and be like, you don't know what you're talking about, sweetie. I mean, sometimes, yeah, maybe it is that. That is our intention.
The better thing to say is, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah. Tell me about that. What do you think
show
about
me
that?
what's your plan on this?
That must be really hard. How are you going to fix it?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I just know that we're looking at this weird thing that's going on. It's a weird dynamic. We've never, now, as I stated at the very beginning, AI has come along.
Yes.
It's scary.
It is.
The idea of transhumanism, the idea of autonomous AI. It's sort of a science fiction movie that we read about and we're moving into, and we don't know what's real and what's not.
Do you know who Lori Segal is?
Yeah.
I actually have a meeting with her this week, but
You name dropping now.
I know.
I like
Did
it.
you see her thing about deep fakes and
Yeah. Yeah.
how they created this whole truth about her? That blew me away. And I think I'm scared to even get into the AI discussion because to me, it's so scary.
Well, and what you know about it today will be absentee information in 30 days.
Right.
So,
So I don't even know how to truly get into that other than we need to be scared.
the thing is evolving. I said to someone just the other day, talking about our studio here, Shy, and what you're capable of doing for editing and things like that on the phone. What I used to have to get on Final Cut Pro and take hours to edit certain, longer form videos and things like that we were doing, sketch comedy and things. Now I can do it on a CapCut app like that,
Easy.
and it doesn't take anything to do. So I said to someone, the crazy thing is technology has gotten so user friendly and so small. You can put a camera in your pocket, and this thing's got a automated gimbal that follows
Right.
your face and the whole thing. You got the little microphones you clip on your deal. Everybody's doing it, and I'm like, you didn't burp, I burped.
I know, that's funny.
We had this conversation before the thing. She said, if I burp or
was so
something, I was
scared
like,
I'm gonna
what'd you eat today, Tessa? So, so I look at that and I go, man, our kids really don't have a chance in regards to, because it's so enticing.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yes.
Thinking, this is one of my big things. Thinking is not comfortable. Critical thinking is not comfortable. And we're basically have taught ourselves, we're guilty. I got a thing I got this massive supercomputer that'll do my thinking for me.
All of the thinking.
All of it. I don't have to dig into the encyclopedia.
I don't have to look at a map.
None of it. Mm-mm. I mean, I bring out things like a compass every now and then. I'll say, do you even know what this is? Would you know how to get somewhere? Do you know what an atlas is? Do you know what a Rand? Have you ever heard of the phrase Rand McNally? I mean, they don't know how to read a map.
Right. No.
And we thought it was wild when MapQuest came out. And you could print out.
You can print it out.
Directions.
Look at it while you're driving.
And then you stopped if you got lost and you used a payphone.
But I mean, you're right. Oh my gosh, a payphone.
Yeah. There's some problem solving in that. Now, we thought that was easy.
And you're talking as an adult too. Yeah. Like, I used to be really great at sense of direction. I still am pretty good at it, but you could drop me in any city and I have never been there before and I can get you where we need to go. Mm-hmm. I can't do that anymore because I've relied on Siri when I'm in a new city.
I can't get around the Woodlands because everything looks the same.
I mean, yes, it all looks the same, but to me, I grew up here, so
yeah. If I go 2 miles, I have to GPS it.
So it's sad to me that I'm losing that ability, you know. And so we're adults with fully developed brains for the most part, and we are losing some of that. And so these kids who never even have to build that scares me. And so I stubbornly, as a mom, you know, I know not everyone's going to listen to what I have to say, but in my own house, my kids are having to do old school things, even though their friends can just type it in or AI or whatever. I'm having them learn how to read it. Like, we're leaving on not this Saturday, but this summer to go on a road trip, and we're bringing an old school map.
Look at you.
And like my oldest son, who's 13, he's going to be the one to navigate. Like, he's already mapped out where we're going to go and what way we're going to go and all that stuff. And so things like that I think parents, the convenience is so nice, but it's actually holding our kids back so much that as parents, we need to look at the bigger picture here and see how it's affecting our kids' brain of development and their overall identity.
Yeah. You know? You have a podcast?
I do, but it's like on hold right now.
Oh, that sucks.
It's called For the Sake of Our Youth.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm not done with you yet. Okay, by the way. There's more conversation in this because I think there's more that we need. The question that I have before we go any further, get any more controversial with anything, because I would like to get
controversial?
I would like to get a controversial take out of you, at least one, so we can use it for social media clips so these people, when they're scrolling through on their reels, they can find us.
People are going to start unfollowing me.
Hey, full disclaimer, it's not her, it's me. This is my show, the Chad Prather Show. Do your kids have social media? Do they have screens? No. Do they have cell phones? You said 13, 11, and 2 boys at 9.
2 9-year-olds.
Twins at 9.
Yes.
So they're all boys, to be clear.
So we were that family when they were really little that we did have the iPads. Okay. And we made sure they were with us all the time, because what if somebody starts to throw a fit? But then once I started seeing all my clients and they scared the bejesus out of me enough, I was like, we're done with iPad. And I could see a change in my kids' behavior. 3-year-old son throwing a fit because I took the iPad away, like as if I'm taking his drug away, right?
And you were, quite
literally. So it was like both my husband and I, before I really worked with clients, we were like, this isn't right. We don't like this. We need to set some boundaries. But then when I started working with teenagers, I was like, we're done with those. So those are put away completely. They come out when we travel, sometimes to watch movies. So no games whatsoever. My oldest son has what's called the Bark phone. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it.
It's a very simple phone. Just call and text. That's it. Yeah. That's all we're comfortable with right now. No social media.
So what about these parents who give their kids their phones, but then they set the time limit?
So I will say kids can get around anything.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's my answer.
I've seen it happen.
Anything.
I've seen it happen firsthand.
Yep. Every time the phone upgrades or updates, the software updates, the parents have to go back in and reset all the parental controls. And some of them don't know that. So then their kid is walking around for months with full access.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Listen, every time there's an update, there's something that changes on the phone that I don't know about from my own phone. And I'm like, then I see some social media clip because I'm scrolling through that says, hey, you need to go in and change this setting or something like that because they're tracking where you are and that kind of deal. So there's no way your kids, and if they get away with it,
they're not going to come tell you.
It's free drug use.
Yes. Exactly.
So no on that. You don't like that.
No.
Don't set the time limits. Just take it away from them.
Don't introduce it. Delay is the way.
Come on, you are so
as long as possible.
antiquated, Tessa. Like, this is Victorian here. This is puritanical. This is, I mean, burn her at the stake. This girl is a witch.
I know. Put me up. I know.
I mean, I can only imagine. And bottom line, she didn't say it. She might say it, but I'm going to say it. People are freaking lazy.
Okay, so right.
People are lazy.
That's why I said it's very convenient to hand your kid a phone or a tablet. Very convenient. But the heartache that is headed your way, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Why are we sacrificing our kids?
No, because I think it's easy to justify. Like, oh, he's just spending 30 minutes a day playing games. Or the big one I hear the most is, well, how is he going to connect with his friends if he doesn't play video games or he doesn't get to have his own phone or Snapchat or whatever? And
they got the headphones on and the little thing, and they're connected. They're talking to people. You walk in the room and you hear these voices, and it's like, who the hell's talking?
I know.
And it's some kid in Taiwan.
I know.
No offense. You're from Singapore. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh.
But then the thing is crazy.
Are we getting in the controversial stuff?
Not yet. He can have that. Ain't controversial. We call him our unseen Singaporean. He just sits over there and makes the magic happen. I love you, Sha. Sha's my dude. But we have this gamer culture with adults. Yes. I mean, these grown ass men who can't. They're spending 8 hours a day.
You want to talk about predators? They know where our kids are, and our kids are online, so they're in the digital playground right now. Really coercing our kids a lot of times, getting them to leave their house, to meet up with them. It's bad.
I saw a video. They pulled it down. I posted it and they pulled it down. I had them review it and they put it back up, where they confronted a guy who was part of a political activist group in Maryland, and he was a guy and he was targeting a 14-year-old boy for a meetup. And the stuff that he said was just absolutely insane.
Disgusting.
But the whole thing was these people are meeting them in these they're not chat rooms, they're chat rooms, but they're basically
what we would call
forums.
Chat rooms, right?
Yeah,
yes.
I remember the old AOL chat. You get in there, hey, any hot girls in here? And
wait, what? ASL? Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
What was it? Age, sex, location.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's that happening, and then there's sextortion happening. You know what sextortion is?
Tell me.
When somebody online convinces your 15-year-old son to send an inappropriate photo because, oh, I'm a girl, catfishing basically, and then comes back and says, oh, if you don't give me $5,000 by the end of the day, I'm going to expose you. Your mom, Linda, works at Chase Bank. Your dad, Steve, works at blah, blah, blah. I know your address. I know your phone number, whatever. And so a lot of these kids, and it's not just happening kids, grown adults are being sextorted as well. So it's definitely the lack of prefrontal cortex, but also just the lack of, I don't know.
It's just
thinking
it's common
you're safe
sense.
online. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, and like there's so many things that we take for granted. Like someone, I won't say who, CJ, the other day, she got this thing that was basically saying your account has been hacked. You need to click here. And I was like, nah.
No, don't you dare click.
Nah. Don't do that. I mean, you see these commercials now, people's bank accounts being wiped out because they gave access to certain things.
Right.
And we all take it for granted thinking it won't happen to me. Parents are thinking that about their kids.
All the time. It won't happen to me. It won't happen to my kids, for sure. Not my kid.
Yeah.
Very common thing I hear.
So the issue that I have for people who, let's say the people who have the same values I do, like you love your kids, you preach community, you preach family values, you preach the nuclear family, like you get into the middle of Pride Month and you're sick of seeing one more rainbow on a commercial, all these kind of things, because it's just everything's just coming at you, it's bombarding you. But you refuse to play the long game of what the consequences are going to be for your kids by just being lazy and a lack of common sense and critical thinking and saying, I'm just going to expose my children to this crap and they're going to turn out okay.
Because I need to get work done, I need to rest, whatever it is.
Instead of saying, hey, go out and play.
Yeah, or figure it out.
Figure it out.
Screen.
Do something. When I was a kid, I grew up in the woods. I grew up way down in the woods. We had to be able to hear the dinner bell, and we literally had the triangle, ding-a-ling-a-ling. Yeah. We had to hear that, and the times we didn't hear that, we got in trouble. And it wasn't
trouble.
good.
Yes. Remember, I was raised by boomers too, so I was raised that same way.
Yeah. And it was trouble.
Yes.
So
Spanking.
we grew up in the woods. We grew up cutting vines to swing on out over the creeks, catching snakes, doing things like that. I was just in the river the other day, and I went over there and grabbed this snake out of the thing. And everybody's like, why are you doing that? I was like, why not? It's cool. Everybody wants to see him. He's cute. Let everybody pet him.
Not cute.
It's so, and so I was like, but kids don't try this. I grew up doing it. But I grew up doing this. And then we'd go outside, and we had a field outside. So we built a wiffle ball field. Literally, we built a backboard and a backdrop and the whole thing. We'd be out there. We built it. Now I see these guys out there that are building these really nice wiffle ball things. I was like, yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
When we were kids, we found an old piece of plywood. We propped it up, and we made a deal. We found ways. I'd go out there with a broom handle and hit rocks, hit gravel,
Yes. You stayed busy. My kids stay busy with chores.
Yeah.
And we call them contributions because you contribute.
You want a little dopamine hit, kid? Make that bed.
You got to contribute to the household needs. I have 4 kids. I cannot keep up with it. So contribute something that is good for the brain. So whether it's creativity or reading or writing or whatever, and then go play.
Yeah.
Go get busy.
So are there rewards for the chores, or is just no? This was, you live in this house, we feed you.
So contributions we separate from what we call chores. So contributions are like, these are your daily expectations to live in this house. Yeah. Keeping your room clean, and then like putting your dish in the dishwasher, that sort of thing. And if I ever ask for anything, you are not to hesitate. You are to get off your butt and come help with whatever it is. You're contributing to our household needs. And then the chores are the bigger ones for us, and we will pay them for that. So if they want to power wash the fence, or they want, like, they're trying to earn money, wiping down the windows, that sort of thing. But like cleaning the toilets, that's a contribution.
And everybody knows, I've got it on an album. It's a humor song that I wrote years ago, put out, and went crazy viral. It's a song called "Beat That Ass," right? And the whole thing is, you got to beat their ass. It's I know. You listen to the song; it's a funny song.
Okay.
Play it for you here in a little bit. But no, but we make a joke about that, and the whole point of using the humor. So back to that point, I've always tried to. People sick of me hearing me say this. I try to take humor or common sense, wrap it in humor.
Yeah.
Makes it an easier pill to swallow. So the whole thing is, we have to be disciplined ourselves and discipline our children. But, even that's a lazy way out. Like, I'm just going to engage in corporal punishment and say I did my job.
Right.
And, even if you do engage in corporal punishment, there is a disciplined process that goes with that on the part of the parent that says, listen, here's why, here's what. Let me walk you through this trauma that I just inflicted on you. And you'll find that if you're really parenting, that's not necessary.
Right.
It's not necessary.
No.
People say, well, it's right. Maybe it is. Maybe it's right or wrong. You can debate that all day long. But again, the Bible says, and I know what the Bible says, but at the end of the day, you don't have to do that.
Right.
If you're parenting right, you don't have to do that.
I agree.
I mean, that should be extreme. Like you are literally, like, I got to get your attention somehow. But I'm like, if you're really parenting, you don't have to do that. My kids learned the sound of my voice. They learned the word no. If I yelled it, they didn't question why.
Right.
They stopped.
Right.
It saved their life a few times.
I'm all about answering the why later, right? So I was the kid. I drove my parents crazy. I was the why. Why do I have to do that right now when I'm in the middle of something and like I'm practicing something and you want me to go and do the dishwasher right now? Can I please do it later? Like, why? And so I had to learn pretty quickly not to ask that question. Yeah. And for my kids, I want them to ask why so that they can learn the why behind it. Right. Because I need it done right now so that I can cook dinner or whatever it is, right? But I will let them ask me why later. Yeah. And then they don't have to ask why next time.
Yeah, I always joke about it with CJ. I said, there's certain phrases I want to eliminate from your vocabulary. So if I'm sitting on the couch, we're watching something, and I get up to walk away, she goes, where are you going? Don't worry about it.
Why do you need to
I'm going to pee or something. I don't know. Just I'm going. There's a reason. There's a purpose. I don't do anything without purpose. I'm just going. I'll be back.
But her reason for asking you could be something like, she's about to have a moment and needs to talk to you about something.
Fear of abandonment.
Or
you're my new Dr. Phil, by the way. We're gonna start doing shows based around Tessa. You're gonna be my new Dr. Phil, regardless of what you think of Phil McGraw. But I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying. I'll be Oprah, regardless of what you think of Oprah.
Right.
And we'll solve all the world's problems.
Both controversial people. Yeah, let's do it.
I think we can solve all the world's problems.
I think we could. Yeah.
But no. So no screens, no social media, no tablets, no phones. like you said, your son has the Bark phone, where in case of an emergency we can communicate. You know, I used to have those the little kids' shoes that had the little pocket on the side where I kept the quarter in there in case I needed to make an emergency phone call.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's how far back I go.
I think, that is pretty far.
As far back.
I think it's really important to have ongoing conversations with your kids about all the screen issues, about social media. When you get an email that says, hey, you've been hacked, click on this link, and you go, no, tell your kids about that so that when they get an email someday, they can go, no.
Yeah.
It's important to have those conversations so that when they are ready for devices, they have a lot of knowledge in their book of technology so that they can take that on and be more mindful and appropriate with it. So I'm not anti-screen necessarily. I am anti-personal devices for kids until they are old enough, which I advise around junior year of high school, so 16-ish. I am anti-devices in bedrooms for kids. But we have TV and movies and all that. And we do have YouTube where it's on one TV in the house that's in the living room. So I can hear what they're watching and it's password protected. So they can't just get on anytime they want. And so there's definitely a gradual entry into technology for our kids. We are not trying to hold back our kids or shelter them so that they are, just like Amish.
Yeah, there was a trend,
Uh.
years ago when I was coming up in my 20s. There was a trend in the church that a lot of people were saying no TVs in the house. Like we'll have a monitor. We have a monitor. It's a television. It's a monitor. But if we're going to play specific videos, we'll feed it into the machine.
Right.
It's not. We're not having. There's no programming. Coming in.
Gotcha.
It was sort of like there was no. They swore off dating and stuff like that. We're not going to date. We're just going to communicate. We're going to have friends. And then we're going to let God sort all that out. And that's not this topic for this day. But and people look at those folks and they go, y'all are so weirdly radical. Like if your kids are around their friends and their friends are going to bully them, right? I mean, see, you guys are already feeling sorry for your kids for some presupposed victimization. They're going to get bullied because they don't know what
bullied, or they're going to be left out. They're not going to know what other kids are talking about.
They don't know what the new Grand Theft Auto is all about.
Right.
Yeah. They're not going to be conversational.
I will say my kids, obviously, this is all they've known for their mom to feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
And so they don't come and complain to me about it. And they tell their friends right from the get-go, like, oh, no, I don't have my own phone. Or, oh, no, there's no way my mom would let me have TikTok. But so they're pretty confident in that. So they don't, from my understanding, they're not getting bullied. But they do feel left out sometimes. And this is what I always tell parents. Give me a single human being in this world who has never been left out. If you can tell me one person who has never been left out at any point in their life, then I will recede my point on this. But every kid, every human at one time or another is going to be left out. It is part of life. It is inevitable. And so we kind of want our kids to be left out. You want to keep your kids innocent? You want to keep them left out of all the toxicity that is online. That doesn't mean that they stay away from all of it all the time, but you build those boundaries. You build that relationship with your kids so you have conversation about it. And then they can discern when they're old enough what's okay and what's not okay. But in the meantime, that's up to us to protect our kids and make sure. So left out, sure, yeah. But every kid is left out, whether they have Snapchat or not.
And if they got the right foundation, being left out, it can be very useful and profitable for their future. Because I remember when I was in 10th grade, my high school baseball coach, he came to me and he said, listen, all my buddies were advancing to the varsity baseball team. And he came to me and he said, I want you to stay back and play JV one more year because you'd be wasted. You'd be sitting on the bench. And I felt left out. But you know what? I worked my tail. That same thing happened
to me.
Yeah.
Not with baseball,
but I worked my
with
tail
dance.
off.
Yeah.
I worked my tail off, and I became one of the better players.
Yes.
And my baseball career went on from there. It was great. But that being left out said, okay, if I don't want to be in that. There's a reason I'm being left out of that, so I'm going to trust in the economy of God or whatever. That this is
life's
journey. I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better and work harder and these kind of things. Because at the end of the day, I'd much rather my children be likened to a George Washington or a Benjamin Franklin, who our founding fathers, the historians attributed how smart they were to the fact that they hung out with adults, smart adults. John Quincy Adams knew like 9 languages by the age of 11. He was actually a translator to ambassadors and emissaries that were coming from other countries. And of course, he was the 4th president of the United States. But John Adams, as his father, I mean, what he created in this prodigy of a child.
Right.
And you look at that and go, oh my gosh. Do you know my friend David Barton, who's a historian up in Dallas in Fort Worth? He says they still have the tests in his museum. He said, we have the tests, the exit exams, because the kids only went up to like 8th grade in 1900. And then they only went to school like 3 months out of the year because they had to work the other 9. And he said, I've yet to find a PhD education student who can pass this test. He said, we've given it to literally hundreds. He said, it's so complex. He said the level of 8th graders in 1900 were taking this test and passing it.
That is very upsetting.
It's disconcerting. So that tells you where we've come as a society. We're lazy. We're not educating ourselves. I mean, the idea that you actually put a book on paper, Tessa,
I know.
it's
And you can get the ebook too.
Yeah, but I mean this, and I tell people all the time, I was like, get the book because see, if you're relying on the digital book, they can digital burn that because all they got to do is delete it.
Right.
If it gets too controversial and they want to cancel you, this is in your hand. They can't get rid of this unless somebody comes and actually snatches it from you. But you deal with a hard topic. Like I don't envy you in regards to this burden that you've taken on.
It's hard. So I started a nonprofit about a year ago to just try and reach even more.
Yeah.
But I've been speaking on this since 2015, and I'm exhausted because people don't want to hear this, and I don't blame them totally. But I am starting to
there's
point the
ramifications
finger a
to
little bit. Yeah.
There's personal responsibility involved.
Right. Well, yeah.
That's something that we've lost.
Right. So
in society.
It's very hard to be in this position, feel so strongly. And it really, like I said, is life or death for a lot of families, and they don't want to hear that. And now that the Surgeon General has come out and said that kids shouldn't be on social media and, loneliness is such a problem in today's culture, I told myself I would never say this, but I just want to say, I told you so. I have been saying this for so long, for 9 years. And people are very hesitant to hear what I have to say.
They tend to they like to cut the heads off the prophets. You know what I'm saying? You come out there, you're a voice of one crying in the wilderness. They like to execute you because they'd rather silence you than deal with the truth of what you're saying. Right. And God forbid you're ahead of your time.
Right.
And you don't want to be that told you so kind of person.
No, not at all. But I am kind of like, come on. Okay.
Yeah.
More people are talking about it. More's coming out about this. Like, please start to join me in this.
Yeah.
Because I am onto something. I am right.
I'll give you a crude, humiliating real life example. So my kids weren't on social media till they were older. I never put them. A lot of people didn't know I had kids because I wouldn't put my kids on my social media. I kept all that hidden.
Sure.
I still have photo files on my Facebook that are hidden. Like I'm the only person who can see them because they're just old photos and I didn't want to get rid of them. But I kept my kids off of there. My kids did not want to be on there. They didn't want to be seen. One of my kids has a channel now two of them actually that do pretty well on some of their creation, but they're authors, and so they're promoting their deals. But my oldest daughter, who's a teacher of 9th grade kids, she's an English and literature professor teacher. She called me one day and she said, some of my students found out who you are, and they found you online, and they said you're a DILF.
Oh, well, what a compliment.
Not coming from a 14-year-old girl. You know what I'm saying?
True.
My thing is, okay, because I did the math in my head, Shy, and I go, wait a second. I know what DILF stands for. Dad, I'd like to. And you got a 14-year-old 9th grader who knows this terminology.
Yeah.
Where do they know it from?
Exactly.
So this is a living example of they got exposed to something that at that age they shouldn't. So so I know my audience, you guys want to go out there and put the pedos in the grinder and throw the millstone around their neck and toss them in the ocean. But my gosh, why are we still letting our kids get exposed to this stuff that is so deadly and dangerous? And we've changed their, I got my Jesse Payton, my buddy who's, a comedian that has opened me for 5 years. One day he texted me, I said something to him and he said, okay, bet. I was like, what?
Like, what is bet?
What are we betting on? And so,
I can teach you all the lingo.
I see, I know people do it and I just get confused. It's so my daughter actually my daughter, my oldest daughter texted me one time and she said bruh. And I was like, wait a second. I ain't bruh. You know?
Oh, man, that is
and I'm like, but where do they learn that from? It's
Right.
online.
Yeah.
It's the community online that they're seeing
Trends
it.
have always been around,
Sure.
right? It's just that it's spreading like wildfire now because it's online all the time, 24/7, and they are online all the time.
So, do you think parents, after listening to this podcast, because millions will, do you think every parent should just run in there and snatch the phone right out of their kids' hands?
I think that they will be very fearful to do so. I would love, and it all depends.
But let's say
on,
they want to do it. Let's say they're converted.
Yeah.
Let's say they're converted. Like I'm becoming
we influence them.
a phonetarian now. I'm going to get rid of screenitarian. I'm not eating screens.
I am taking that.
Yeah, I'm a screenitarian. I'm not consuming any more of that. So should they just go in there? The kid's sitting on the couch and he's got the iPad out there and he's thumbing through it. Just snatch it out of their hand. What's the process?
So depending on how old the kid is. So if they're older and they've had a tablet their whole life, you're going to get such a pushback that most likely you will give back in. So what you want to do is do some prep work, which my whole nonprofit has programs for this to help families reset. And I'm not trying to do a shameless plug, but it is very...
No, by all means.
It's complicated. There's a lot of steps that need to happen in order for it to be successful. If you just go take it away, you're either going to have the world's biggest battle in your house.
I would think you're building resentment there pretty deep.
A big problem within your relationship, but then also you're more likely to give back in and give it to them, which is then telling them what? That they can get whatever they want. Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
So what I like to see is for parents to do the prep work, which is understanding really what kind of lifestyle they want for their kids, what those values are that's really important to them, figuring out replacement activities, and then having conversations with their kids, letting them know this date, we're not going to have screens anymore, or you're only going to have access to this for this amount of time, or whatever it is. Again, it's different for different ages, different families. If they are, I usually say 10 and under, but again, everyone's different. Depending on how much time they're spending on screens, if they're 10 and under, just take it away. Just take it away.
Yeah, you
Let them be mad at you. Let them be mad. They will get over it, and eventually they will thank you. Maybe not right now, maybe not next year, but when they're juniors, seniors in high school, they will be like, thank God my parents took that away from me when I was 10 years old. There was just that guy, I'm going to butcher all the details, but there was a guy who just accepted an Oscar on the Oscars and an Academy Award on the Oscars. And he said, thank you to my parents for not letting me play video games.
Wow.
My whole upbringing or something along those lines. Because I wouldn't have gotten this. And it's so true. It's a creative stealer to let your kids be on screens all day long.
And there's so many things. We still haven't gotten to the controversial question, Jen.
Okay, but can I check my phone really quick? I mean, I hate to do this, but I just want to make sure my kids are okay.
Because I wanted to make sure, watch out for that antler.
I saw that.
We have her so close to those antlers on the wall back there.
okay.
Like, this is the closest a guest has ever been to horns on the wall. And it's kind of made me paranoid on this thing this whole time. But you've handled it like a champ. But when she'd been over to get the phone, I was like, uh-oh, we just impaled our guest.
No, I just want to make sure because my kids, this is the first summer we're letting them stay home alone for a few hours. And
helicopter parenting, I tell you, from a distance with a cell phone.
The one
No,
phone at
do what you
home.
got to do. And I'm not going to keep you much longer because I thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
over because you've known CJ for a long, long time. She said you gotta read this book. You got to check out what she's doing. I was like, speaks my language. I want to get her on. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Gosh.
Controversial.
Well, in a second. In a second.
Not there yet.
So the other thing that I see that's going on is these parents who are just farming their kids out, whether it's to screen time or whatever, but also to like the sports and the athletics, and it's like the never ending, like from the next tournament to the next tournament to the next tournament. And we got to get these kids. And so the sense of competition is gone because there's no season for playing ball.
Right.
We're always.
All the time.
So if I lose this tournament, I didn't lose anything because I'm just going to get a new uniform and play next
time.
Next deal.
I think also the amount of pressure and the exhaustion happening for kids. And again, that lack of balance I was talking about earlier, like they don't have a chance to rest.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing baseball games and soccer games and all this.
Yeah.
They're doing it at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings.
Right.
That violates a lot of people's values.
Yes.
They got these kids out till 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And it's like now they got them on travel teams doing all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so anyway, I just throw that in there. It's not a problem we're going to solve today. But the identity issue, I want to talk about this real quick because I think kids have always dealt with identity issues. We've had, goth and punk rock and emo and flurries and, all these different things. And now you got I call it transgenderism. You got real.
I like your words for everything.
That's what I do.
That's
what I do. I twist words, twist phrases. But there are people out there who are truly dealing with gender dysphoria and these kind of things. But now it's gotten trendy to have these identity issues, and it's like, well, I just don't think I like who I am.
Right.
And so I'm going to be something else. I might be so extreme as saying, I think I'm a boy now. And then we have an educational system out there that's empowering that. There's so many forces, because again, you wouldn't support some organization that comes in and says, "Hey, we're the kid changers." We're the this kind of stuff. They hide behind these social emotional learning phrases that are insidious, and they're very deceptive. So do you think that the screen time has exacerbated these problems that we see on these identity issues?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because I got to be like everybody else.
I feel so strongly about this, that every trend, but definitely anything that has to do with LGBTQ or gender identity is just, like I said, skyrocketing because of social media, because of the things they're seeing, that influenced confusion. Kids are already confused. I mean, that's part of growing up and finding yourself. That's okay. That's healthy. But it's that influenced confusion that is creating
influence confusion. I love that phrase.
So much more for these kids that then they stumble on a 20-year-old who is not a credible source talking about things using big words. And so then they're like, yes, that's me. And again, we find relatability with the things we consume. And it's a bad spiraling situation for our
you
kids.
have these quote influencers, the Jeffrey Marshes and the Dylan Mulvaney's out there. Like Jeffrey Marsh is it's a dude with a 5 o'clock shadow and a kimono on, and he's painted his nails. He's like, listen, I want you to understand that people aren't going to understand you, and your parents aren't going to understand. And I'm like, that's so gross that you're trying to counsel these kids.
Basically grooming, right?
You are.
Yeah.
So that disgusts me, and then it's like, well, you're anti this or anti that, or you're phobic or whatever. It's like, no, I'm just intolerant of people doing this crap with my kids. Like they're seriously targeting people, but it goes all the way back to your earlier point, because the kid feels like there's something missing inside. There's something that's not going on. There's that something, you don't understand me, but this stranger online gets it because they know how to use the right psychology and the right words.
Right.
So it's like Pavlov's dogs. I mean, they hear the bell and they just salivate.
Exactly.
They just come to it.
That's exactly what it is. And it scares me because we want our kids to go through their own journey of finding themselves, but not getting influenced like that. Yeah. And it's everywhere. And it's hard as a therapist because when someone comes in and all of a sudden, I call it mental illness hypochondria. When you have convinced yourself you have whatever mental illness you have convinced yourself because you need an answer right then. And you ended up on TikTok for hours going down a rabbit hole about bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or transgender or whatever it is that you have convinced yourself you have this thing. And then you go to your therapist and you use all those big words. And it's really easy for a therapist to be like, well, yeah, you say you have all those symptoms. Yeah, I guess
sounds like you self-diagnosed.
I guess your self-diagnosis is correct. When really they're self-diagnosing off of people online who don't actually know what they're talking about. Right. They might have gone through their own journey and feel confident about it, and that's great. But what is my journey is not your journey, and I don't think that online, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, is the place for these people to be spreading it.
We laid out a lot of information. You did, but the step-by-step to diagnose the problem, but then also the solutions for it. You can get her book, Tessa Stuckey. That's Stuckey with an E-Y. And this right here, preparing for the storm, right above your bio, it is. The storm's coming. For the sake of our youth, I want people to get it. You can go to tessastuckey.com. And your nonprofit, how can people find that?
So it's called Look Up Nonprofit because we want people to look up more. And you can just go to lifeisoffline.com or lookupnonprofit.com.
Yeah. And you'll save in chiropractic bills because that seventh cervical vertebra won't be all tore up from looking down all the time.
Yeah,
occupational hazard from reading books and looking at screens.
We're trying to find some sort of correlation between wrinkles and a blue light. This is totally just hypothetical to help women realize to not look at their phones.
So I can tell you this. Yeah, right? Yeah, it's like this is called
anything for
digital
vanity.
Botox.
Yes,
right
put it
there.
down.
I know that it's weird because if I lay in the bed at night and I somehow migrate over to social media and I'm scrolling, man, I'm wide awake.
Okay,
wide
so
awake.
do you want to get into that?
Well,
real
yeah,
quick?
but then if I go and then I'm like, okay, this is not what I need to do. I'll go over to a book.
Yeah.
Start reading the book.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
out.
Right. Well, you've probably associated, you want to talk about Pavlov, you've associated reading with sleep. And so that will get that melatonin going quickly. But when we are on anything that stimulates our brain a lot, plus that blue light behind it, it's going to stop melatonin from producing in our brain.
Yeah. See, that's it. And I've noticed it.
Yeah.
I can be, and then I'm like, okay, it's time. Because I've always said I read to go to sleep because
Yeah.
it's one thing. I read a lot, but
It's
I
best
also know
to
how
do it from a physical book.
Physical book.
But if you have it on a tablet or your phone, that's fine too because you've already associated it. If you had not already associated it with sleep, then you would probably struggle.
Yeah, because I read a lot and I have my entire life, but I also know how to read to go to sleep, to
Yes,
put my brain
same.
in neutral.
Yeah.
So I do that every night without
Same.
fail. And so, but it's weird how your brain's on and then you can
Yes.
turn it off.
Yes,
And so that's right there. That should tell you what it's doing in your kids' minds.
exactly.
So the nonprofit, look up the book, get it. Tessa, you're going to come back. We're going to do
Absolutely.
more of this stuff if you will.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I fear for the future of kids that can't think, kids that can't process problems, can't, get critical with things and can't handle the world around them.
Same.
Yeah. Thank you for doing what you do. You don't get thanked enough. You don't. Yeah. Because I can only imagine the crap that comes your way. So, and you're not. The beauty of it is you're not a victim. You've stood by it. You believe in it. It's a conviction of yours. And yesterday, I told you, we were talking about you yesterday. We were out at the lake house, and CJ walked by our kids, and she goes, "Oh, if Tessa could see me right now."
I know. A lot of my friends tell me that. They're like, every time I hand them a tablet, I think of you, Tessa. I'm like, keep thinking of me. Just change your behavior a little bit.
All right. Check her out, TessaStuckey.com. And take care of your kids, folks. Take care of your grandkids. Don't tune out and say this doesn't apply to me. Trust me, it applies to all of us because one day they're going to be the ones changing your diaper.
Yes.
Okay, so it applies to everybody. This is something. Get behind her, push it out there. Get this book for your kids. Make them read it if they got kids. I'm talking to you grandparents out there because I know us. I know our generation. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's hard stuff, but it's meat worth chewing on. Okay, so you can find me watchchad.com. I promise you, if you come find me out on the road, it is a far less serious live entertainment experience. And you can go to watchchad.com where all the fun stuff is. Tell your friends and your family about this show. You can drop me a line, chad@thechadprathershow.com, or you can join the community, thechadprathershow.com, all those websites, but then look up, okay? Type it in and then look up, all right? We won't spam your email. We send out one newsletter a week, and we figure that's about all you need to read, and it's pretty short. So, Tessa, thank you for coming on. God bless you for doing what you're doing. Guys, we will see you next time. But listen, go leave a rating and a review. 5 stars is what we deserve. So go do it. Leave us that thing. It helps drive us up the charts. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.